Tori here with today's Finishing December Daily Quickly video. Today I'm working on December 31st, so the very last process video for my December Daily for 2015. And on the 31st, I basically just traveled home. So I spent 3 weeks in Uganda, and the 31st was spent in airplanes on my way home. And it was a pretty epic adventure, as in epically horrible. But I wanted to document it, and I sort of made light of it in the journaling so that I could look back on it with fond memories. So I have two 6x8 photos, and then I also have two smaller photos. One is 4x4, and then one is 3x4. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a ton of journaling because I really wanted to document all about my adventure. So I had this Bah Humbug Project Life card, and I thought it would go well with like horrible travel adventures. And then I also had this card that said 31 with some journaling lines. So I decided to add some journaling there, and I just talked about how I began my journey in Uganda and headed home to Toronto and how I couldn't wait to get home. So I'm going to work with those two smaller photos first, and I'm going to start with this photo of my shoes. And I like to take shoe shots when I'm traveling. I don't know, I think it's cool to see all the different places where my feet are. And I grabbed this My Mind's Eye sticker that said remember this. And I'm going to add a title with these Tim Holtz ideology big talk words, and I'm going to write I just want to go home. And that's how I felt the whole entire journey. Like, it was so crazy that the whole entire time all I kept thinking was, I just want to go home. And I just wanted to be in my own bed and be back with my family and stop stressing because it was a very stressful journey. So that's what I thought the whole entire time. I just want to go home. So I thought it was appropriate to stick that on there. And then I just added a little bit of journaling above that. And now I'm just trying to find a 4x6 card to mount that on, one that I feel like will go with the spread. So I'm just going through some different Project Life cards to see what might work. I thought about going with that green Merry Christmas one because I wanted it to match the Bah Humbug card, but it didn't feel appropriate. And I had this map card that was in black and white, and I wanted to use that in the other 4x6 spot. So then I went with this star 4x6 card because I felt like it would work well and match. And that's all that I'm going to add on to that card. I'm just going to leave it simple so that the I just want to go home stands out. And then on this 4x6 card that has the map, I'm gonna put all the different locations that I flew to. And I thought about adding this picture of my Turkish delight. Somebody on the plane, we had a long delay, and so they gave us Turkish delight, and I took a picture of it. So I thought I would add that on that card, but I end up putting that somewhere else on the layout. So I grabbed these little enamel dot stars, and I'm gonna put one in the area of Uganda, one in the area of Turkey, and then one in the area of Toronto because I flew from Entebbe, Uganda to Istanbul, and then I flew from Istanbul to Toronto. And then I just did little dotted lines to show like the travel trip, and that's all I'm going to add to that card. I'm going to keep it really simple. Now I'm going to work on my 31 tag, and these are some mixed media tags that I made at the beginning of December, and I have a process video for that if you'd like to learn how to do that. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to cover the back with paper just to jazz it up a little bit. And I'm going to also stick that photo of the Turkish delight on that card. And that way I could just include that photo. I thought it was cute. And the truth is we sat on the tarmac in Istanbul for 3 hours. And I just thought it was so sweet when the what are they called? The stewardess came around with Turkish delight for everybody. It was really sweet and sort of nice since we were all stressed and just wanted to get back to Toronto. So I'm just going to include that picture there. And I decided to mount it on some paper just to give it a little bit of definition, and I'm just mounting it on a piece of scrap paper. So while I keep working here, I want to tell you a little bit about my trip and why it was the most epic travel adventure ever. So I had heard that the transportation to the airport was to an hour and a half. So I had ordered for a private hire car to come 2 hours before I needed to be at the airport, and I had to be at the airport 3 hours before. So I had to be there 3 hours before. Then I gave myself 2 hours for transportation. The guy showed up half an hour early and got to the airport in 45 minutes. So just to give you an idea of how crazy he was driving. So I arrived at the airport, got through security and all of that super quickly, that I ended up sitting in the Entebbe airport for like 4.5 hours before I could even get on my plane. And it was so long. And honestly, all I kept thinking was, I wish I could be hanging out with Courtney right now because I had left early, late at night, and I wish I could have just spent that 4.5 hours with her instead of sitting by myself in the Entebbe airport, but whatever. I finally got on my plane headed for Istanbul. And when we arrived in Istanbul, it was snowing so badly that there wasn't a gate for us to get to, so we couldn't actually get out of our gate. So we sat on the tarmac for 2 hours waiting to get off of the plane. Meanwhile, my next plane is supposed to leave 2.5 hours after I was supposed to arrive in Istanbul. So I'm watching the clock go by. There's only half an hour for me to catch my next plane. Finally, we get off the plane and I get into the Istanbul airport, which, let me just say, is the most crazy, chaotic, busy airport that I have ever been to in my entire life. And I've been to a lot of airports. That airport is horrible. I'm sorry if you work there or if you're from Istanbul, but that airport is horrible. And I get off the plane and I need to get a ticket because in Entebbe they didn't actually print my ticket. So I go up to the counter and they tell me that the flight to Toronto has been canceled. So meanwhile, it's the middle of the night. I'm in a country that all by myself. I don't know where I am and I'm exhausted. And my flight to Toronto has been canceled. So now I have to get a visa, find out about a hotel, get transported to a hotel, and book another flight. And I was just so stressed. And then what happened was they're like, we can't help you at this desk, go over there. So then I went over there and they're like, no, we can't help you here, go over there. So they sent me to 6 different desks. Meanwhile, me walking all over the airport, so stressed, and nobody was helpful. I was that crazy person walking through the airport by myself, crying because I was so stressed, didn't know where to go, and I just wanted to get home. I had no way to contact my family because my cell phone didn't work, obviously, and I was just stressed. Finally, when I got to the 6th counter, they said, your plane wasn't canceled. It was a different flight to Toronto. Your plane is still going. And they're like, here, we'll print a ticket for you so you can go to your gate. The ticket said that the plane was supposed to depart at 1 o'clock. It's now 1:30 in the morning. So I'm like, is the plane still here? They're like, just go to the gate, you'll see. And I'm like, but is the plane still here? They're like, I don't know, just go to the gate. So I had to run across the whole entire airport because the gate was on the very furthest gate. And I get there. Thankfully, they're like, the plane's still here. It's fine. You can get on the plane. So they're like, go wait outside for a bus to take you to the plane. So I get on the bus and or I go outside to wait for the bus, and they make me wait outside in the freezing cold snow for 25 minutes waiting for the bus to come. I don't have a jacket or anything because I've just come from Africa, so I'm freezing cold in the snow. Finally, they're like, here, you can go to your plane. And I'm like, praise God. They put me on the plane and I'm like, yes, I can go home. Then we sit on the tarmac in Istanbul for 3 hours. I just want to go home. I have no way to contact my family who's picking me up at the airport to let them know that they can't pick me up. I'm praying that they will check online to see what time the plane comes in. And finally, I got home. Unfortunately, they did check, but it wasn't updated, so they arrived at the airport 4 hours before my plane even landed in Uganda. And then we had to go through immigration, which thankfully went quickly, and then I had to wait for the bags, and it was the slowest baggage release ever. Every 5 minutes, 1 or 2 bags would come up, and just when you were about to lose all hope that any more bags were coming, another bag would come up. So then you'd wait and you'd wait and you wait. Finally, an hour and a half later, I only had one of my 2 bags, And so I had to get in another line to tell them that I was missing a bag and fill out all these forms. Finally, I got home I got out of the gate, saw my parents. They brought me Starbucks, which praise God, they're so amazing. They know me so well, and food because I was starving. And we drove home. I was supposed to arrive in Toronto at 6:15. By the time we drove back to Stouffville and got home, it was 11:45, 11:50, 10 minutes before Happy New Year. Um, but you know what? I was so exhausted. I just went to bed and I was so glad to be home and glad that it was over. Anyways, I've talked a lot, but it was the most epic, crazy adventure ever. So I did a lot of journaling on that one photo out the window, and I basically gave a timeline of what happened. I added some emoji stickers as well, just to add a little bit of definition. And then I wanted to add a photo of my Starbucks because it just meant so much to me that they would grab that for me and knew that I needed it. And then I'm just going to add that onto that one card. And then on the back, I'm going to add a maple leaf, which represents Canada. I'm just adding some faux stitching lines, just like my favorite technique right now, onto that, just to bring a little bit of definition. And I'm going to stick that to the back of that paper using my hot glue gun. And I kept this page pretty simple with embellishments. Here I'm going to add my journaling to it about how much I appreciated the Starbucks and how thankful I was for my family who waited for 5.5 hours at the airport for me. I felt like the paper just needed a little bit of definition, so I'm going to grab some washi tape and also add a title. So if you're wondering about this snowman paper, isn't it adorable? It came from the Feed Your Crafts Etsy shop online, and it is a doodle by Brandy Kincaid, and I just love that paper so much. And I felt like it represented being home because it was cold, and my parents brought me a winter jacket, and I had my Starbucks, and I thought, oh, now I'm home. And then for the title, I decided to use this 4x6 transparency that said "You Are Here." And I've used that before in this album, and I like the repeated element, and I'm just going to make that my title and put it at the top. And then I'm going to add my journaling. So, like I was saying, the embellishments for this layout or this spread, the 31st, is pretty simple. Just adding those little things like the emoji stickers and the bummer puffy sticker from Freckled Fawn and the epoxy stars for the locations. But other than that, it's pretty simple. It's mostly heavy on journaling. And I said that I felt like it was appropriate that an epic December with traveling all the way to Uganda and back would finish with an epic adventure journey home. And I was just so thankful to be home. And honestly, when I look back at it, I just have to laugh because it's the most ridiculous, crazy travel trip I've ever had. And I travel a lot for work and personal and stuff like that. So I felt like it was pretty crazy that I would have such a horrible adventure coming home. But that's life. And then on the back, I wanted to add the date. So I'm just using my roller date stamp and I'm changing it to January 1st because it sort of is like the end of the album and about finishing the trip. And then I'm just going to add a little bit of journaling about how I'm so happy to be home and how we made it home just in the nick of time for the new year. And then I decided to add one of those gold stickers from Seven Paper, the heart ones, onto the maple leaf. And that page is done. I'm going to stick it in a page protector. Actually, I'm not going to. I'm just going to punch holes, and that will be all that I'll do for this layout. So in just a few moments, I'm going to slow this down, and I'm going to hold up all of the elements so that you guys can check them out. Before I do that, I just want to say thank you everyone so much for joining me for all of these December Daily Inspiration videos, process videos, hauls, organization, and everything videos. I've had so much fun putting this series on. To be honest, I'm glad it's over and I can get back to scrapbooking and Project Life pages. But thank you for joining me. I hope you guys have really enjoyed it. And I would love to see your December dailies too, so leave me a link below. I'll be doing an album flip through next, so keep your eyes open for that, and I'll be back with scrapbooking and Project Life pages really soon. Hope you guys have a lovely day. Bye!